So it's the next day, and I had cleaned up and painted everything towards the end of yesterday, and I just kind of wanted to let them set up a little bit. Sometimes you're rushing and you end up with fingerprints all over everything. Not that I'm that concerned about the paint job on this, but started reassembling the motor. I got the two outer tins on the front belly pan, and a couple of these little extensions that are underneath here. So as you can see, I just kind of washed the motor. I didn't bother painting anything on the motor because I didn't really want, I kind of wanted to match the look of the truck, you know. I don't want it all new and shiny looking, just cleaned up. So so I'm going to continue on with reassembling everything. I think I'm up to the point where I got to start getting the blower assembly first put together and then installed down with the thermostat hooked up. So that'll probably be the next step I'm going to do is transfer the generator over to the new shroud and put all the bits and pieces on that shroud, and then we can move forward with that. Alright, there's the fan shroud that was on it. This is the fan shroud that is going on it, and I'll show you some differences between the two. And first of all, as you can see, I got to swap that generator over to that. And the generator is driven by a belt, and there's a fan in the back. And here's your fan. I'll pop a light on you. There you go. See the fan? So as that spins, it draws air in through here and exits it down each side. And when it does that, it puts it across the top of the fins of the motor, the heads and the jugs. Air blows down between them and cools them off. Now, normally the way it's set up, down underneath there will be a thermostat. It looks like a little bezel, brass bezel. I'll show you that later, and that's on a rod. When it's cold, it's all shrunk up. As it gets warm, it expands, and what it does is it opens shutters on the bottom of the shroud, and here's those shutters right there. So, you know, when the motor's really hot, it opens it wide open, allows the air to flow over them. When it's cold, it shuts it off. Now, maintaining the engine temperature is one thing, but it also helps to work with the heat, because in the wintertime, you figure these are shut. It's trying to get the engine heat up as much as possible. Instead of that air blowing down across the jugs and out, it now wants to blow out these two holes. And what these holes are for is your heat. And what they do, they attach to what's called the heater boxes. Heater boxes are the exhaust, and then the exhaust is surrounded with another shroud, and it blows the air around the outside of the exhaust, picks up the heat from the exhaust and puts it into the cab. And it's also your volume, so if these are wide open, you're not going to have any flow going into the cab. You know, there's all the airflow is just escaping right out the bottom of the shroud. Now this aftermarket one, which is I believe a MP, if you look at it, there's nothing. It's just hollow underneath. So that was just set up to blow air all the time. And for how I want to use this and our climate, which goes anywhere from 20 below zero to 110 above, it's nice to have it so that it can regulate and get the motor just to run right too, on top of the fact of having heat. And one last thing too, you kind of notice that how these are on the shroud. The airflow isn't exactly graceful trying to escape out these holes. It's got to make a 90-degree bending out. Whereas you look at these, they're kind of tapered to allow a nice smooth airflow coming out of them. So, all right, well, I'm going to start switching over the generator and getting the linkage set up on the back of this to get it dropped into place. Okay, as you can see, I got the housing on there and the generator all put on. And basically the belt spins the generator. Generator in turn spins the fan. Air blows down each side. And here's that linkage all set up. If you notice, it's preloaded to fail in the open position, so that if there ever was an issue, you wouldn't overheat. It would just let it be in the cold. So it's got a return spring right there that kind of moves it. And then the rod, it's dark under here. Give you some light. There you go. Then the rod hangs down right here. You can see it. And there's a bracket that comes off of this stud. So I'll set that stuff up later, but basically what it does is that. So that'd be pulled down. That's in the cold position. It would choke off, and then as it expands, it goes back up and it opens those fins up and allows the air to blow across the engine. So that's that part of it for now. And of course I'm jumping around, and one thing I was worried about was putting a stock exhaust back on this motor, and the issue I was worried about is it has an aftermarket oil filter on there. And I grabbed the smallest oil filter I could find diameter wise. Unfortunately, it's still too large. If you notice that it's hitting that tube, and it's still not even close to being sucked down. You know, that muffler still has to drop down about another 3/4 of an inch. So my thought is I might be able to get on a creeper. Bear with me. I might be able to take this is where the oil pump is, take it and spin this whole assembly so it fits in this direction. So that might work, because if you notice that heat riser is not on the other side, it's built in differently on the other side. So if it's compatible to flipping it over when I take that pump apart, that's what I'll do. But I have to disassemble a little bit to get to that. So I'm gonna go get on that right now. Okay, so that right there is an issue, and I tried to see if I could take that pump off and flip it around. Unfortunately, I'll show you what the issue is inside there. Let me put you down. Kind of what I suspected. I kind of knew it. I was just trying to hope that something would be different. But if you look at it, you see that hole that's by itself on the left-hand side there, which lines up to that hole, which is the passage internally. Unfortunately, you physically can flip it over. It would probably be okay. But that's your oil passage, and it continues through the side of the block right there and up. So that will be an issue. So I can't really do too much about that. But I do remember this thing having a bug motor muffler on it. And I was like, well, what's the difference between the bus and the bug other than one's got 2 ports and one's got 1 port? And here we go. If you look at it first, a bug's got 2 tailpipes where a bus only has 1, and it kicks it off to the side. But if you'll notice, the Flexi preheat is this is for the intake, by the way. It keeps the intake from frosting in cold weather. It blows a slight exhaust through the bottom of the intake, and it just keeps it warm. Anyway, so you see this one's got the Flexi long leg on this side, and that one's got the Flexi long leg on the other side, so it is not in the way of putting this muffler on there. This port is roughly in the same place, so it sticks out a little bit further. That shouldn't be an issue. I can modify that. So what I'm thinking of doing is I'm just gonna cut off the one side of the muffler right here and cap that one so there's nothing coming out, and have it more like a regular muffler. I don't think it should make much of a difference as far as restriction. I'll take a peek inside there, but I think it should be I should allow it to flow right through and out the one side like it normally does. So that's what I'm going to work on now. Okay, looking at that a little further, I figured out why they ran that tube on this side on a bus and not on a bug. If you look at that tube where it draws through, you'll notice, can you see it? It was there a second ago. Hey, you see that? What that is, as the exhaust is exiting, it creates a vacuum on that tube, and that pulls heat across the bottom of the intake manifold and down and back out the other side. And then on the bug, it's on the other side. So if you look in on that one, you'll notice it's on the right hand side. So if I go to plug that off, the problem with plugging that off is that it's not going to have any place for the exhaust to come out, and it's not going to have that vacuum going across. So for now, what I'm going to do is still cut that off and seal it up. And I still have the stock muffler. If I leave that one alone, it'll be okay. I can always put that on at a later date. It's not that big of a deal. But I do know they sell an oil cooler with 2 flexi lines coming off of it, so I'll probably go for that setup, and I'll relocate the oil filter up inside the engine bay or something like that. If I had a stock oil pump, I'd probably put a stock oil pump on it right now, but I actually kind of like the idea of that oil filter setup on there for the extra capacity of the oil and just cleaning it better than what it normally gets cleaned. So again, I'm still going to hack up that muffler. Alright, I got that thermostat set up in there, and I figured I'd just give you a better look at it. And again, what it is a bellows, and hot air blows across this as it's exiting the motor. And the hotter the air is, the more it needs to know that it needs to cool itself. This expands, pushes this rod up through the back of the motor, and works these guys. And they in turn open and close those fins up in the tin, which allow the more air to flow across to cool it off more. Or if it's cooler in the wintertime, it'll shut them off and pump more through your heat. And as you can kind of see, air would be blowing through these fins, all through these fins from the shroud. And there's another piece that goes on it like that. I can kind of see more of what's going on. So that air is flowing across, it blows across. Sorry about the light. Put some light on you. How's that? There you go. The blows across that thermostat. That thermostat expands as it gets hotter and flips those fins up top. So that's how that works. And this gap that you're looking through right now, a heater box goes there. So this is closed off too. So you'll see that in the finished product. So that's that guy. And there's the muffler. I just cut off the one leg of it and patched it. And I'm just going to go ahead with this for now, and I want to think about what I want to do in the future. If it works fine, I'll just leave it alone, but it may need some looking after later on at some point. And I do know that that is a little bit larger than the stock tailpipe that a bus would have, so I may have to make a shim just to knock that down a little bit too. But we'll deal with that when we get there. Okay, so the lady's all dressed and ready to go back. Everything worked out pretty good. There's the space around the oil filter. Got about an inch or so. And the header that was on it before was about a ½ inch away. And the oil filter had a larger diameter to it, so that's a better. Capped off the exhaust, and everything else fit on. New heater boxes. Want to look pretty. And the way these work, the way the heat would work. All right, you got the thermostat in the bottom. The engine is it's winter time. It's trying to maintain a heat level. The shutters want to stay closed, so most of the air wants to get forced down through these tubes instead of being lost across the cylinders out underneath. So there's this kind of like a foil tube they use. That gets attached to there. Well, and you follow the line, keep going. Goes through the muffler, just kind of like a heat exchanger here too. This is called a heater box. Goes through here. Inside of this is a about a 1-inch diameter exhaust pipe that's going through, and then around it's a finned body that the air goes around. That's where it sucks up all the heat from, and then it comes out the back side. And from inside the car, you have a cable that pulls, and it pulls that lever right there. And when you call for it, you open that door, and it allows the heat to come in. You can see the fins right there, some of it. So, and that's how the heat works in the V-dub. And if you actually have it all hooked up and it works right, it's not bad. It does work. You need the RPMs of the engine to be up. You're sitting at an idle, it's not doing much. But in this, it's not bad because look at the cab size you have. It's only yo-yo big, you know. So it's not heating that much of an area. All the tins are back on, and there's no open gaps anywhere anymore, except for this one hole I gotta fill. What this was for on a Bug, it had an air cleaner across the top, and it had a snorkel that came off of it, and it would suck the fresh air from this area. Actually, the preheated air, I should say. There was like another piece that went down here and scavenged from the exhaust. Anyway, so that's what that hole's for. It gets blocked off on the air cleaner that I have. And everything else is hooked up. It's got a breather that dumps out the bottom, and then this goes to the air cleaner. All right, enough. And now I got to stick the thing back in the hole. Ugh. Actually, I got to take it down and adjust the valves yet. I got 2 broken screws, but I'm not really that worried about it. One is right here in the cases. It's I can get it off if I need to, but the tin's missing that spot anyway, so I'm not worried about it. It gets attached to the heater box too, so these you know, they're not flopping or anything. And then this one's broke right here, but it's attached in 3 other places. I know, I'm a hack. What can I say? So there's the oil filter room that it has. All right, I'm gonna go put it on the bench and adjust the valves and stick this thing back in the bus. All right, before I put the motor back in, I gotta do something about that clutch arm that's curved over and in the way of this bolt installation. You can get it, but it's a real pain in the ass. So later model ones, they just came straight up with them. So we're gonna try heating that sucker up and bending it. Cooled off on me. I'll get hot on that. That should do it. Let's see, does the bolt come out now? Stick your finger there. Go ahead. Oh, enough, I guess. That clears it. I should go a hair more. Alright, well, you guys don't need to watch that. You got the general idea. We're going to move that just a little bit more. So close, but so far. The motor is in. Might have to come back out, but it's in. Didn't see this coming. See up there, that beam that I added and I notched out for the other shroud. Well, guess what? That's a little tight right there. It's hitting it. So I'm gonna try to come in with a plasma cutter and just cut a V. Cut like that and like that, and I could just tap up from the bottom and see if that wall will lift up, because it's just right on the corner of it. But if not, I gotta pull it out and get in there with a cutting wheel and do the same. All right, let's see, get that done. All right, I got in there with the plasma cutter and opened them up and just kind of bent them up. There's about 3/8 of an inch clearance now. the next time I pop that motor out of there, I'll just hammer that up and weld it up and make it look nice and pretty. But for now, I got clearance, and that's good enough. I'm also gonna have to do something with the exhaust because that goes right to the muffler, so I got to come out with an elbow and kick it to the side like a bus one would be. But we'll get on that. First I want to get it running again and make sure everything's okay, oil pressure wise and leaks and that kind of stuff, and then I'll go from there. And I know it's dark, but I cranked it till I got oil pressure, and it took a while because of all that oil system filling the filter and everything up. But let's go fire it up. The bottom pulley's rubbing on the aluminum, so it just needs to be lightly persuaded a little bit, but that shouldn't be a problem. I think that belt's squealing because the battery's so dead it's trying to charge itself back up. Well, he runs. I gotta do a bunch of picking on it though. We'll get it squared away. Alright guys, thanks for commenting, watching, subscribing. Take care. Bye.